and welcome to the OCO Roundtable podcast. From Oraro and Company Advocates, my name is Melanie Mwenda, and I'll be your host today. I have the pleasure of hosting Jacob Ochieng and Morris Mbugua, who are part of the firm's data protection team. And today we're discussing a very interesting topic. Jacob is a partner in the Corporate and Commercial Practice Group. With over 12 years' experience, he has advised both local and international corporates on commercial contracts, corporate advisory, corporate restructuring, mergers and acquisitions, privatizations, and infrastructure projects. Karibu sana, Jacob.
Thanks, Melanie. It's a pleasure to be here.
Likewise, Morris is a senior associate who is also in the firm's Corporate and Commercial Practice Group, and he has advised both local and international corporates on mergers and acquisitions, private equity, privatizations, corporate restructuring, corporate advisory, and infrastructure projects. Karibu, Morris.
Thanks for having me, Melanie.
Over the last few weeks, we have had very useful insights on how data protection impacts our day-to-day lives, as well as our businesses, and we have also discussed how to secure this data. On our previous episode, we discussed the consequences of non-compliance with the data protection regulations and went over a few decisions by the Data Commissioner. In this episode, we would like to touch on how data protection intertwines with artificial intelligence as an emerging technology. As AI continues to evolve and integrate into our daily lives, the importance of protecting personal data has never been greater. Our mission is to shed light on the challenges and opportunities that come with AI advancements and to provide insights on how to navigate the complex world of data privacy. We hope to provide our listeners with an informative background on the relationship between AI and data privacy and provide a practical approach to addressing some of these issues. There are various concerns relating to AI and issues arising relating to data privacy. Morris, as we delve into this, please explain the link between AI and data.
Now, data is the lifeblood of AI as we know it, such that without data, there would be no AI to discuss, as there would be nothing for the learning techniques to learn from, nor would there be any outcomes in the form of the AI subsets. To that effect, they quote that data is only of value if there is a capability to transform them into intelligence rings true. Author of Kitchen on Data explains that data has a strong utility and value because it provides the key inputs to the various models of analysis that individuals, institutions, businesses, and sciences use to explain various things, innovations, products, policies, and knowledge that shape how people live their lives. On a daily basis, individuals make decisions based on information input and rely on the quality of the information and the manner in which it's input to make the most accurate decisions possible. For instance, as an advocate listening to a client or customer, there is heavy reliance on the information about the business needs and goals that's essential to the advice or service that's being offered, where the information gathering is hindered by the input process, such as unclear communication due to language barriers or disrupted with constant interruptions. This majorly affects the advice offered. And similarly, if the information provided is inaccurate or incomplete, this affects the advice or the services ultimately offered. This is because the decision maker cannot analyze the information effectively. In this case, analysis meaning an examination of the elements of something. Now, in the examination of elements of something, essentially this means the examination of a particular topic or subject matter. And understanding the elements is the first step of this examination, where to this effect, there must be standards imposed on the representation of the said elements in a manner that lends itself to an examination. The use of the term quality becomes of importance here as a description for standards, which begs the question, what is good quality data? The author Kitchen states that good quality data are discrete and intelligible, aggregative, have associated metadata, which is data about data, and can be linked to other data sets to provide insights not available from a single data set. As complex as that definition may seem, it essentially means that good data has accomplished two integral things. It has firstly provided values that are essential in collection of data in terms of ensuring that it is intelligible. And secondly, it has introduced building data repositories, interlinking data sets and gathering data about data, all of which are a continuous process that affect the quality of data, which is undoubtedly the basis for creation of big data itself. So based on the definition by Kitchen, some of the benefits that data may have include: 1. Helps in saving costs. Having a repository of information entirely eliminates the need to hire focus groups or statisticians to collect data on people the organization already serves or intends to serve. Secondly, it also drives efficiency. With a large collection of data on previous transactions, it's more time-conscious and efficient to utilize that data as it's more personally tailored to the business needs of the organization from the onset of its collection. Thirdly, it also helps in analyzing the market. Large data sets are representative of a greater diverse area than narrower data sets are, and provide a broader basis to enable a comprehensive analysis of the market. Another benefit of having such data is improving customer and client experiences. Learning more about customers and clients through an analysis of their data and providing analytics on the same can provide organizations with answers on how to best tailor their services moving forward. Now, this definition by Kitchen underscores and conceptualizes the seed of AI as a tool that aids in the understanding of elements as AI learning techniques, as well as the subsets perform those functions. What do you mean by this? Essentially, it means it helps us understand how data and AI integrate together and the various processes that data goes through when being processed by AI. Now, the second part of this analysis is the examination, which entails an interrogation and interpretation of these elements to enable one to come to a conclusion. It involves identifying various patterns, recalling past experiences, making connections between the elements and other interrelated information in order to inform an accurate decision. The examination requires inputs from the decision maker. These inputs are data inputs despite the fact that they manifest in a different form than the initial input, meaning they are not necessarily collected by way of data requests, such as a conversation. They rely on the existence and access into some version of a data repository, such as one's memory or a casebook, for example. The process of examination is a function of human intelligence, which introduces a key element of artificial intelligence itself, that it is the outcome of the training through data input, the human-like capabilities. Now, at this point, the connection between data, big data, and artificial intelligence is the foundation of our discussion today on the privacy issues that may emerge, such as confidentiality breaches, availability breaches, and integrity breaches.
That's very interesting, Morris. So what I'm hearing you say is that AI is a creature of data.
Exactly. Data is in fact the lifeblood of AI.
Right. So now moving on to you, Jacob. Given the background that Morris has laid, what then are some of these privacy issues that arise with the use of AI?
Thank you, Melanie. As discussed by my colleague Morris in this episode, AI largely relies on a large amount of data in order to make decisions. Of course, some of this data poses no threats or they don't relate to personal data, and some of it relates to personal data. For purposes of this discussion, we are more concerned of the personal data and how AI poses threat to such personal data. So, as discussed in our previous episodes, we described various types of breaches being confidentiality, availability, and integrity breaches. So, since AI relies on huge amount of data, and this is stored in their systems, this poses a risk of a data breach to the data subjects, because such amount of data may be compromised, such amount of data may be disclosed to unauthorized or accessed by unauthorized parties. Such data may have changed, and therefore there may be need to change this data. So because of the inability or the difficulty of isolating some of this data for purposes of, updating them, then data breach becomes one of the significant risks that AI poses insofar as, data privacy is concerned. As discussed, the data stored in AI systems and servers are generally concentrated in such a great detail, and therefore this becomes a target for third parties or hackers trying to get access to this information, either for personal gain or for commercial use. This renders the AI systems prone to attacks by third parties, and therefore the chances of a data breach in AI systems become increasingly high. Additionally, the reason why AI is exposed is because in most cases, the data stored in AI systems are not masked or anonymized. Since they are not encrypted, it exposes the data in the systems to great access. And therefore, should the AI systems be compromised, then the data of the data subject is likely to be disclosed to third parties. The other concern about data privacy or AI systems is what we call data brokerage. As discussed by my colleague, AI is a creature of data, and therefore AI functions and operates based on the data fed into it. So therefore, any third party that's accessing or processing or making use of the AI is more likely to use data that belongs to third party. Such use may have not been consented to by the data subjects, and therefore there are chances that such data or such innovator may be exposed to a data breach. Even in circumstances where the data is collected from other sources like websites or reward cards, or even from social media and sold by business companies in form of profiles, there's still a high risk that such data may be connected or relate to an identifiable individual. And this risk increases where such data is transferable or is used for sale. The other risk associated with AI is data storage. As we've discussed, AI relies on huge or AI systems and platforms store a lot of data. Now, the Data Protection Act requires that data is stored for such period as is necessary for the purpose for which it was collected. In the case of AI, since this data is mixed up and this data is stored for a relatively large period of time, and given that this data could be modified and used for any other purpose, then there's likelihood that the time period that was envisaged at the time of collection may not be consonant with the time that data is being used. So there are potential risks or challenges that the data may be stored for such period as may not be required for the purpose for which it is collected. And where such data is also used for other purpose for which it was not collected, then it poses the risk that, the innovator may fall afoul of the principle of purpose limitation, which requires that data is only used for the purpose for which it was collected. And therefore, if there's a need, for that data to be used for any other purpose, then the innovators may need to go back to the data subject to obtain additional consent. For the purposes of this discussion, the last risk that, AI poses insofar as data privacy is concerned is data accuracy. And where personal data is collected and processed through AI, it is likely that there are no systems in place to validate the data or assisting in maintaining the accuracy of such data. In this regard, the data processed may remain or may be inaccurate, contrary to the data protection principle of accuracy. Melanie, as the listeners will appreciate, AI poses real data privacy risks. Therefore, innovators need to consciously be aware of such risks and put in place enhanced security measures to mitigate such risks.
Most certainly, Jacob. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, we have used a lot of AI jargon, but one in particular is AI subsets. Morris, please elaborate further on what this term is and how the specific forms of AI demonstrate the depth of the potential privacy concern.
Thanks, Melanie. For purposes of this discussion, I'll discuss 4 main subsets. 1, machine learning, autonomous systems, computer vision, and natural language processing. To begin with, machine learning is one of the most common features or uses of AI in our day-to-day lives, where the AI is able to obtain different data and learn from the various patterns established from the data received. For instance, AI has been used to learn certain provisions and clauses in agreements and may be able to pick out different variations of the same from other documents and provide analytics on the same. Such analytics may include the likelihood of success of a complainant, disputing over the same or similar clauses, or factors that contribute to that success, including jurisdiction, among other variables that affect the pattern conclusion, and it's dependent on the data fed and the consideration it's programmed to make. This learning relies on ingesting massive amounts of data in order to train and test the success of the learning technique, essentially, which is based on the algorithm that's been developed for this particular AI, and the reliability and accuracy of the resultant predictions and patterns. Collecting and storing large amounts of data can assist in the development of AI, but can also directly oppose the data minimization principle, since the algorithms mostly have unfettered access to data subjects' sensitive information. Data breaches are a particularly large risk with respect to AI, as large amounts of data are stored to ensure that the AI is continuously learning, drawing parallels, and providing the most accurate prediction based on all forms of available information, including past and current information. Similarly, the lack of obfuscation is another major concern, as after data is masked, it cannot be utilized by the system in its learning, as this would be a hindrance to the information gathering. Secondly, we look at autonomous systems as one of the other subsets. These are systems that are able to accomplish a task, achieve a goal, or even interact with the surrounding with minimal to no human involvement. It's also essential that these systems be able to predict, plan, and be aware of the world around them. Such tasks will range from the ability to create legal and medical documentation, invoices, and automatically log data to autonomous vehicles and machines that are able to perform tasks and operate with minimal or no human supervision. Now, a good example of autonomous system can be seen in self-driving cars. Information collection occurs in 2 main ways. 1, through surveillance, when the systems automatically collect data. 2, through interrogation, when systems actively ask the users to provide this data. Examples of surveillance include an autonomous car collecting time-stamped locations, or distance traveled, or routes taken, or destinations, and other forms of information that it may collect. Examples of interrogation include autonomous vehicles asking for destinations and personal assistants asking, play the next song. As I've just heard from my colleague, one of the major privacy issues and concerns that arise here is data brokerage, where data is collected by these autonomous systems, is sent to a centralized system, stored, and then can be sold without the consent of the data subjects. For instance, in 2017, the maker of the Roomba robotic vacuum cleaner planned to resell the maps of the interiors of users' homes. The Roomba is a particularly intriguing autonomous system that essentially uses sensors to understand the layout of a room and ensure the most effective dust vacuuming. This means that it grasps the dimensions of the room to ensure that it does not miss a single spot and can work unsupervised. The generated maps of the user's home identify whether there are sofa sets or not, where walls and tables are, which makes it easier for third parties to map out the setup of the home and use that information for other purposes. For instance, maybe plan a robbery through understanding the layout of one's home. Now, the unique application ID of this device can be utilized to find the personal identifiers of the data subjects, such as the names, address, and lifestyle, making it altogether too simple for one to be targeted for criminal activity. without so much as a broken window as evidence of unauthorized entry. It's also noted that the Data Protection Act provides that a data subject has a right not to be subjected to a decision that is solely based on automated processing, including profiling, which produces legal effects concerning or significantly affecting the data subject. In this regard, a data subject should be able to either consent to and be fully aware of any action or decision that's taken by AI based on automated processing or profiling, where a data controller or processor takes a decision which produces legal effects or significantly affects the data subject based solely on automated processing. They must notify the data subject in writing that a decision has been taken based solely on the automated processing of their data. Now, another AI subset is the natural language processing, which largely includes a chatbot, Siri, Alexa, which are very familiar with us. Text and speech are our primary method of communication. When interacting in web-based service providers and other users, we often allow companies to store, use, and even sell the messages we have sent or received on the platforms. There are two main types of speak authentications: the text-dependent and text-independent. In the former, a spoken word is used to identify you in addition to comparing features extracted from your voice to that of previous recordings. In the latter, the system only uses features extracted from your voice, while you speak to the automated or human representative without you having to say any particular keywords. Security concerns may arise where the feature and functions which are associated to a user's voice may become compromised, and where a user's voice is recorded and played to the authentication system with the purpose of gaining access to a particular file or location. Faults of data accuracy here are also common and have widespread, long-standing impacts on data subjects. Natural language processing models often struggle to interpret or retain the meaning of words or phrases based on the context in which they are used. This can lead to misinterpretations or incorrect analysis of text data. Additionally, this data cannot be obfuscated, despite the encryption keys being utilized by some processors that are aimed to limit the access to the natural language processing keys to a limited number of persons on the side of the data processor. The last subset of AI that we'll look at is computer vision, which essentially relates to facial recognition, such as the ones used for security for phones or CCTV. In the context of computer vision, privacy concerns arise when cameras and other sensors collect personal information without an individual's knowledge or consent. The rise of facial recognition and related computer vision technologies has been met with growing anxiety over the potential for AI to create mass surveillance systems and further entrench societal biases. There's also the concern of bias in facial recognition, which could lead in accurate identification. This is a good example of data accuracy issues that can lead to real-world harm, such as being arrested and accused of the commission of a crime due to algorithm matching similar features without accounting for variation in one's facial structure. As you can see, Melanie, each subset of AI causes different concerns to data privacy. We often interact with these various subsets on a daily basis without much consideration for the consequences on our privacy. Therefore, each organization should put in place measures, from security policies and upgrading their technology to ensure that the systems are well protected and the privacy of the persons in the organization are all safeguarded.
Thank you for that, Maurice. And picking it up from where you've left off, Jacob, what other ways or measures can we put in place to address these concerns when dealing or working with these AI tools?
Thank you, Melanie. In fact, the question at this juncture is whether or not it is possible to navigate the ever-changing landscape of AI and data privacy. Whereas it is crucial to enhance privacy and data protection in ever-growing use of AI, it's also important to balance this with the need to allow for the development of innovation in AI to ensure that there's safety and useful tools that can be quite beneficial to the society in various sectors such as health, security, education, banking, and so on. Arguably, the first step is obviously emphasizing the key and long-standing principles of data protection. That is the collection limitation or purpose limitation, and then the purpose specification or use limitation, which is espoused in the Data Protection Act and the Data Protection General Regulations. Insofar as the collection limitation or data minimization is concerned, the developers need to ensure that, the collection is only limited to what is necessary. And, personal information should be collected by lawful and fair means. And where appropriate, should be collected with the knowledge and consent of the data subject. Now, if an organization ensures that the collection is very narrow, this improves the ability for pattern spotting and improving the decisions of AI. This protective measure is to ensure that you limit the extent of harm that a data breach may cause to data subjects, in that the less the data is collected, the less likely the data breach will contain information that is directly linked to the data subjects. Of course, where additional information is required for the functioning of AI tools, then such additional data may be obtained with the consent of the data subject. In relation to purpose limitation, the purpose for collecting personal data should be specified to the data subject at the time of collection. This is a fundamental requirement that in obtaining consent, the data subject is informed of the particular purpose of processing the data. This essentially requires data controllers to ensure that once personal data is collected, the information is used only for the purpose for which it was collected. Obviously, I acknowledge that this principle is particularly difficult to implement, since it's difficult to limit the functions of AI without limiting the potential for innovation. But developers of AI systems should, as far as practicable, conceptualize the potential purposes of such data and ensure that they obtain consent from the data subjects for those potential purposes in order to comply with this principle. Having said that, Melanie, there are other technical and organizational measures that an organization may implement in order to address the concerns that we've just talked about. These include investing in effective data governance and security tools, such as threat intelligence and monitoring software that can assist the organization in detecting and responding to data breach and preventing data losses. A number of data governance specific tools also exist that can help an organization protect personal data and ensure that all data remains in compliance with the relevant data protection laws. Secondly, an organization should consider establishing and rolling out appropriate use policy for AI so that the users within the organization know what data they can use and how they should use it when engaging with AI tools. This is particularly important for organizations that work, with the sensitive personal data, such as health and financial institutions. Thirdly, to the extent possible, organizations should strive to use only non-sensitive data. As a general rule, organizations should not input sensitive data, which could be business data or the customer's data, in any AI tools, even if it is a custom-built or fine-tuned solution that feels safe and private. If there's a particular use case that the organization uses to pursue that involves sensitive data, the organization should consider examining if there are any other ways of safely completing such operation without using the personal sensitive data. They could, for instance, consider or explore using digital twins, data anonymization, or synthetic data to the extent necessary. The fourth point is that organizations should read the fine print of the documentation that accompany the AI systems or platforms. This documentation would enable the organization to decipher whether there are any red flags to be aware of, and what are the basics that they need to train their employees on to ensure that there's no unauthorized access or deliberate access to data. This documentation should be considered and read carefully so that if there's anything that's unclear or that potential threats or risks identified, this can be discussed by the developer and addressed before the organization implements such AI tool. The fifth point is that an organization should offer training to all its stakeholders, especially employees who interact with AI tools on a regular basis, on a daily basis, on how, when, and why they use the AI technologies in their daily work. Training should obviously be an ongoing initiative that focuses on refreshing the general knowledge of the employees and incorporating such information about emerging technologies and best practices so that the employees are well equipped to use the relevant AI tools implemented by the organization. And lastly, but not least, developers of AI models should consider enhancing built-in security features at all stages of the model life cycle in order to protect user data. They should focus heavily on data privacy, increasing practices such as data masking, data anonymization, and synthetic data usage. They should also consider investing in more comprehensive and modern cybersecurity toolsets for data protection, as we've discussed in this episode. From this discussion, Melanie, it is important for the developers of AI systems, as well as organizations using AI tools, to keep in mind the data protection principles, mainly the two principles that you have espoused above, as well as organization and technical measures to ensure that the use of such AI tools do not result in a breach of the data privacy of their data subjects. This would, enhance the efficiency, productivity, as well as preventing financial implications or repercussions that can arise as a result of data breach.
Thank you for those useful tools that developers and organizations can take into consideration and implement to ensure data privacy concerns are mitigated when using these AI tools. Any parting shot from you, Morris?
Well, one thing to note is that AI is essentially embedded into almost all forms of technology that we use today. So this is something that's alive in our day-to-day, from our organizational perspective to our personal lives. Everything has an aspect of it in AI, and the law should be very responsive to this in a way that promotes the safe use of personal data in AI, but at the same time sensitive enough not to stifle the innovative idea behind artificial intelligence. So organizations and developers of artificial intelligence should ensure that they put in place technical and organizational measures to ensure that the data subjects' rights, as well as their personal information, are not used for extraneous and unintended purposes.
Thank you, Jacob and Morris, for joining us in this conversation today. It's been a very technical yet engaging topic that I'm sure our listeners have thoroughly enjoyed. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in, and we hope to connect further with you on our socials. We value your feedback, and thus, we encourage you to reach out to us on our social media channels using the hashtag OCO Roundtable. Until then, goodbye and take care.